We're here. The drama has unfolded. We have our Olympic champion. But what a roller coaster it was. I don't think I think I felt like I jumped that Olympic track 30 times today. And I don't know how you guys feel, but it was tense. We saw incredible sport. It was a tough track out there, only 3 clear rounds. Being in the jump off meant you were confirmed to have a medal, but we lost some big, big names to this track. Sam, how did you experience it? How do you feel after the Olympic final?
I was so drained, but it was the noises that came out of me, the emotion. Like I was like the lads thought I was insane. They thought something's wrong with Dad. He's broken here. Like there, like the moments when, obviously you had King Edward, you had Leonie J, but then you had the two Irish laid on. But everyone, the last rails of Electric Blue Pea, of Ballatinu for Laura Kraut, the little near misses. It was so packed and so intense. I couldn't watch it. Someone said to me, "All right, Sam, it's 8:30. Let's 9 hours after the whole thing is finished, I'm gonna sit down and watch it again." I'll be no, I can't. It's like one of those thrillers that is going to take it out of you. Like there's going to be emotion, stuff like that. So, and I'm still, but what I am trying to work out, which I think is a strange thing. What I'm trying to work out is, was it good? How, I mean, it was really, I mean, I felt so much, like I was so engaged. Let's put it that way. But I have questions, and I have a horse of the week. I have a rider of the week. I have heartwarming moments of the week. I have heartbreak moments of the week. I have all of those things, and we'll go through them on the show. I have phenomenal respect for Kukuk and Checker. They've won 2 5-star 160 Grand Prix. We talk on this show all the time that these horses have to win. We've talked about James Can Cruz. We talked about Monaco's. They have to deliver, and this is the third big win of the year. No doubt a phenomenal talent of a rider. We talked about horses rated over 750 on our ELO. There's not many of them in the world. This horse is one of them, and stepped up. So, but I'll still have questions around the week and the format and the best horse winning and things like that. I think there's a lot to debate and a lot to discuss. We have our Olympic champion. I have experienced a thoroughly engaging Olympic Games, and I'm drained. I'm empty, which I think it's a good thing. I think that means I felt an awful lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that we have a very deserved Olympic champion, Christian Kukuk and Checker. They were the best on the day, and at the end of the day, with the format that the Olympic Games are right now, that's what matters. The other days don't matter, and we will talk about that. But they were the only double clear, and that wins them the championship. And I think, it's not like they came out of nowhere. Like you said, they won 2 5-star Grand Prix already this year. Kukuk has started the year in an incredible form. We have mentioned it on the podcast before. Checker has been sublime. He won in Wellington. He won in Madrid, the Grand Prix. So
I'll say one other thing. We're not talking about. I'm just picking the first name that comes to my head. We're not talking about a Blue Lloyd situation from London, who had quite a poor start to the week, and then just really peaked at the right time. Just got into the final and peaked and got a medal. There was no horse better than Checker throughout the week, and I think that's really important.
No horse did the entire championship with less than 2 down over the entire championship. So there wasn't one that stayed clear through the whole run. There wasn't one that even did it on just one fence down. The best horses.
Oh my God, though. There nearly was.
There nearly were.
Can we do? Can we just go straight into like heartwarming, heartbreaking? Can we get into this way of doing it?
Yeah, we can. What do you want to start with? Heartwarming to keep.
I suppose I'm just no. Go straight for all the pain. I need to deal with all the pain first.
Well, can I get but your initial reaction, D? What was your
similar to you?
like,
I mean, I similar to you. I feel totally drained. If you ask me to watch it again now, I couldn't. I wouldn't be able to yet. And equally, like we had a choice to do this review in the immediate aftermath, and actually all of us said, let's try and let it settle. Let's try and process. I felt very similar after the team final, where we finished on Friday, and on Sunday night, myself and Charlotte sat down again, and we said, sorry, maybe we were as three of us as well, but I think we sat down on Sunday night, and again, similar question. First question is around how are you feeling, and it took me a good while to process everything that happened in that team final. I went in there with so much hope and expectation and excitement for an Irish team as a fan. It didn't ultimately work out, but there was just so much in it, and I felt today was something similar. And while it's a lot to process, I think it's a really encouraging thing for the sport that there is so many stories, that there is so much emotion, that there is so much jeopardy, that actually the fine lines are real, that you can handpick probably 20 different stories that could have happened, that might have happened, that did happen. Um, Last rider into the ring, Dubai de Cedro with Julien Epiard, it's close enough to the end I mean, even the dynamic that would have been, not just having a French horse in the jump off, but equally having four in a jump off, it definitely changed the jump off dynamic, that all three knew they had a medal, and that in one way they were able to go in and take it in whatever way it came up and go for it. But how does Kukuk ride that first round if there's four? I mean, he talks about it himself. He felt no pressure in an Olympic final jump off. I mean, it's his quote after. He said, I felt zero pressure. It's a good thing, possibly. It's a bad thing, possibly, and how much does the sport change if Dubai de Cedra stays clear? How much does the sport change in terms of having a big US rider in there, particularly a US rider? And if I can get into the heartbreaking moment, or one of the heartbreaking moments for me, and maybe the unexpected heartbreaking moment, one of the unexpected heartbreaking moments for me, in that I've always, from a data point of view, enjoyed the Caracol story. Of course, with Julien Epiard, there was the big run of wins, and then you had a time with Carl Cook where there wasn't wins, and there was definitely probably 6 months to a year of transition. And then actually in 2024, you did see the wins happening, but it was set in the context of Kent, Laura McLean, and can Carl Cook make this team? And then ultimately he doesn't make the team, and then at the 11th hour he does make the team. And you had all of that stuff unfolding until he begins to be perfect. And for me, I didn't expect to find myself in an emotional place that halfway around the final for in a Caracol de la Rock jumping round, my whole body just felt so invested in this. And then there was a rider mistake coming around the corner, and you guys will speak to it a little bit more possibly, or you'll certainly, and maybe lots of people watching will understand it more or see it more from a horse and rider point of view and the riding point of view. I can only really speak about it from an emotional point of view, and the mistake was a mistake. And then you saw it written all over Carl Cook's face after. I mean, it was immediately emotional. Like he was almost immediately in tears. And in that moment, it felt like, oh, of course, for all of the people that had a rail down today, the Olympic dream was over. But something took me in the Carl Cook Caracol round in a way that I didn't expect it. Maybe it was, Sam, as you say, the horse that had been perfect to that point, like the worthy champion. Maybe
she was my horse of the week.
And
Yeah.
I think he would have stayed clear had the rider mistake not been made. And I think Carl knows that as well. I think he knows that the mistake was his, because she looked fresh and she looked like she was all over it, even helping him out when he made the mistake. And she stayed completely in the zone until the last fence. It's easy to make that mistake, have 2 fences down, and then kind of unravel going to the last oxer, which caught out a lot of riders, a lot of horses. It's huge, it's massive. It's at the end of the round. You're going away from the exit, and she stayed zoned in.
And he can join Fuchs, Von Eckermann, Laura Kraut.
The last,
you keep going,
and
I guess what you want to see at the Olympic Games, I guess, is that you push riders out of their comfort zone. My rider of the week was Scott Brash. Like the team round was phenomenal to handle the pressure, because today you saw pressure. You saw concentration, potentially concentration under fatigue, concentration under pressure, whatever it was. But you saw what an Olympic Games cauldron can do to the very best, and that's what he had done for the team medal. But he kept doing it. Like Jefferson was equal in terms of the horses of the week. He was equal best, and like it does go back to there probably being a plan that he would work back from Tokyo and he'd have it, and the team had to trust that he would do that. But he did it. He got Jefferson to be 110% for Paris, which he has to be. This horse has to be. This horse says it was the most experienced horse in the field today with over 100 rounds at this level. But his clear rate is at 33%. He's a 1 in 3 type. That's his strike rate in this.
That's average.
Yeah, for this level, for this field, because your Dallas, Vegas, Batilles, they are 50% horses. Your Checkers, and then you have a James Cairn Cruz or a King Edward up at like over 60%. And so those are your real top ones. So you've
given me, almost without realizing it now, without us all going around too much discussion around it, and I'm happy just to let this jump around whatever way it goes, because it's all just going to flow out in a moment like this. But horse of the week for you is Caracol.
Yeah, and do like I don't want. I hope everyone is with Carl Cook. I was with him. I was support. I thought to get into the team. You've described the journey getting into the Team D, delivering. We've talked about that loads. The final cherry on the top, if you didn't notice it today, in all the drama, his reaction, to the mistake is, again, thank you for bringing a different dimension to athlete emotion in the sport, because and I've talked about this from myself. I've talked about this from my own point of view. I know what I'm like getting off a horse in interviews, and very much the athlete of like no emotion, objective, and that's crap. That doesn't sell. And I know that's not any rider's job. Their job is to be performers. It doesn't, and we see tennis players, we see golfers, and rugby players are the worst at it, I think, of giving like boring interviews all the time and not showing emotion. And occasionally you get like real characters, outgoing, flamboyant, eccentric. Okay, that's good fun. But to see the humanity that came out today of Carl, the humbleness, being like, oh my God, I'm wearing that, I'm owning that one. So fair play. So thanks. So huge respect, Carl. But and to be horse of the week, the rider, what he's done to take over that horse again, that's something we've talked about. I think.
Can I pause you before you go on to horse of the week, because just on mentality and on that concept of like how emotion and humanity and mentality, I guess, is communicated in the sport. You would almost, Charlotte, put the heartwarming moment of the week potentially as a post-competition moment. I thought the quote from Steve Garda after, there's something really, I have them here, I'll read them out to you, but there's something really
profound.
Yeah, because of the moment that it is, because it's a guy who has
But he's done it. He's won gold. He has the perspective to be able to say it.
Okay, I'm going to just tell you what he said. Okay, so he says, okay, amongst a load of stuff about, okay, the mayor is spectacular. I'm upset about the jump off. Okay, I'm blah, blah. But he says, jump offs are still our weakness with Dynamix. For the last year, I'm trying to train as much as possible, but you don't get too many tries. Today, I was kind of confident because it was doable. The time wasn't crazy, but it was a mess. My jump off wasn't good enough, but I don't really mind. I'll have enough time to think about that in the future, but right now, I just want to enjoy the medal that I have won and not the one I've lost. Firstly, stopping there, you don't hear that often. I'm going to enjoy this because I have a few regrets after London. London, of course, being where he won gold. I didn't feel like I enjoyed it enough, running from show to show. When I look back, I think this medal is so hard to have, but now I have the chance to get another one. I have an amazing family, especially my wife and my daughter, so I'm definitely going to spend more time in the coming months with them. End quote.
Like you read us this quote before we went live, and it gave me goosebumps, and it put a tear in my eye. And you read it again, and it did the exact same. And I think that's also so important to have that perspective. And he has that perspective. He's won the gold. He knows what it takes, and then it took him 12 years to be up there again. And even though he didn't equal his gold, he knows what it takes. He knows how much work goes into this medal. And he also knows that at the end of the day, the medal isn't everything, and that it's important who you surround yourself with, and his family is important. And you have to enjoy these moments, because especially in our sport, there's so many ups and downs, especially downs. I mean, look at the amount of riders that have had downs today. Look at,
Do you want to go to the biggest one? Can we just skip on to
I
that?
was just about to say it. This is maybe the perfect segue to go to Henrik von Eckermann and King Edward, because they were the favorites, I think, on ratings, but also just in the general public's eye. They were the ones to win this. And, he could have had one down, anything could have happened, but the worst thing happened, and he fell off, and he gets eliminated. And it's all over. Everything that they've been working towards, it's just gone.
So in the, I think more people would question echo ratings, and we talk about making metrics that matter and things that tell us stuff about particularly future performance. Like that's how you tailor an algorithm, or that's how you improve a metric. Is it should tell you more about future performance. Does this matter? I know the horse is experienced. Does it matter? How much does that matter with regards to future performance? I know the horse is in form. How much does that matter? All of this kind of stuff. So when we put all that together, how much King Edward was bringing to the table as a double World Cup winner, a world champion, that you put it all together and it's like, okay, he's best horse in the field. I think we all agree on that. 8% win chance. And I think a lot of people being like, no, 8%. That's nothing. You're telling me the best horse in the world is 8%, 92% chance going to lose? You guys like rubbish. You're talking rubbish. Well, when you take into account the fact that you had Dynamix de Bellem in there, European champion, the legacies, the James, you go through the field, you're like, oh God, I've got to start sharing out all this win chance. If every horse today jumping had an equal win chance, they'd all be on 3.3%. We know somewhere less than that. We know somewhere a little bit more, but it was high quality. So, but in the point I want to get to is in the 92% of ways you could lose. I knew this was coming. I knew, we all knew that this was likely to happen, that he wouldn't win. Because
but not to this extreme.
Exactly. This is really in the bottom 2% of how it could have played out. You can start stringing stuff together, and that we've seen this in the Gothenburg warm up and stuff like that. You look at Henrik's style, he rides it. We actually say sometimes as an event rider, I can tell you that, how you ride show jumping is different to cross country. When a horse stumbles or makes a mistake or pauses, and in those moments as a cross country rider, you shouldn't fall off. You should be in a bit more of a defensive position. But as a show jumping rider, we will often say that you should fall off, because you should be with the horse. You should be allowing the horse to really express itself and jump, because it's so rare when you have such a big dramatic moment as we saw today in the ring with them, that's actually going to happen. And again, because it's jumping, the thing you're aiming for is a clear round. You're not trying to just scrape. You don't want scrappy, messy rounds, because you ain't going to jump clear rounds if you do that. You want to be with your horse and let your horse jump. And Henrik does that. He uses body language a lot. And that's what he was doing. He was using his a little bit forward. He was already going right, and the horse just spooked and went left, and they parted ways. But there's another lesson in. I mean, there's another. That is a moment. We're going to remember that for the rest of our lives.
Mm.
This and like we're going to talk about this as like he's going to become. Whether he chooses to go down this route, like I do a lot of public speaking and talking, and talking to businesses and that kind of thing about what it's like to be, and you deal with all of it. You deal with the Steve Gerda thing, being like we're all just humans, and we all have, and actually the most important thing is how we are with the people we love. So you deal with that side of it, but you deal with failure and tough failure. And Henrik has a moment that is so unique because no one else was Henrik van Eckermann riding King Edward today. And what I mean is no one else had that much expectation on their shoulders, and no one else fell off.
No, someone else
That's
did.
simple. They fall off. They did. You're right, in the water. Yeah, you did right. One other person did. It's a tough way for the Olympics to go, but it's just like just opposite ends, polar opposite. Huge drama, but huge. It's a big person moment, isn't it? As much as we're listening to as much as we're talking about the humanity of Carl Cook's emotion on the horse when he made a mistake, as much as we're talking about the humanity of Steve Gerda saying, do you know what, I want to breathe and I want to love my wife and love my daughter in this moment. And we're talking about that humanity. Let's think about the humanity of King Edward, of Henrik van Eckermann.
I think it'll do a lot for his story. I think it all, like, I mean, okay, it's not obviously the story that he wants. Certainly not tonight. It's a lot nicer as a Olympic gold medal story, but there is something there in terms of how we can, I feel like a bigger desire to tell the story about the greatest horse ever. And I want Henrik to go on and, go to Aachen and win a World Games at Aachen, possibly more in these moments as I'm thinking about it. There is something about how he responds from this. There was a moment in Gothenburg, actually, just after he fell off in the warm-up, where he is coming out as one of the final combinations in Scandinavium. Last time he's in Gothenburg before he goes to these Olympics. And there's just such an adoring home crowd. And I think particularly the way the Swedish crowd and the Swedish jumping fans treat and love their riders. There is something that happens now, I think, which is he gets wrapped up in all of that love and emotion and kindness that will happen, that will come there. And I think the journey grows more from here in terms of how he bounces back and what we begin to see. Because ultimately you're still looking at one of the greatest horses ever, which means that the wins are going to keep coming. But I think the first win after this, or the big moments after this, there's going to be some edge to it, which is that's the guy who had to come back from that.
I think what's harder now, I think talking about it the way we've talked about it is the easy bit in terms, and I mean, we're having a public opinion and you're putting yourself out there to be shot down, disliked, controversial, not doing it for the sake of doing it. Just I think the sport needs opinions, and you got to kickstart the conversation. I'm very happy for people to say Sam's in Egypt. What was he saying? The disappointment, that shock and all that kind of noise and the all that. I think it's easy to be like, oh my God, so dramatic and poor, dealing with just that. I actually want to deal with why it happened, which is like in the round, I was animated. I was very animated from about the second or third fence.
It wasn't as smooth as they can make it
No.
go. It's not like he was riding the perfect round and then this happened. They had some struggles throughout the fences that they did jump, and I think in the quote that he said, he mentioned that he couldn't write his exact plan, that he walked and he was at a stride, and then he has to adapt and change, and that all adds to, what happened. He wasn't, the plan was kind of not being followed as he wanted to. The flow state that we often talk about wasn't really there.
That's it. And you don't know how hard it is to ride that horse. Like like I think that's the other thing that you can make the mistake of doing in horse sports is looking at a horse and rider combination, seeing how good they are as a pair. Obvious case here, King Edward, and like winning Herning, like the way, the style and manner in which they did it was so comfortable, so exuberant. I remember the final, the only time when he had to kind of get out of trouble, I think in Herning that I can remember, a little bit like Dynamics did today in that triple bar to vertical combination. Steve just went for one, and Dynamics was just brilliant in the response. But the only time King Edward had to do that in Herning was, I think, in the final round. Again, it was in a triple combination, and he just showed off. He just went, "Oh, you've made it a little bit difficult for me. Look how look how good I can be," and it was phenomenal. But everything else was just so smooth and so easy. Whereas it wasn't this time. It was like, oh God, it's tough. Now you don't like we've talked about this 4 down in Stockholm, in GC on the way in. So we talked about plastic shoes, and I know he's a thinker, and he's always looking for the next marginal gain. He doesn't sit, and he doesn't like standing still. He wants to keep going forward, and this is Henrik looking for more progress.
That is the moment of the week. Would you agree? I mean, I know it's not. It's the moment that we all.
Oh yeah.
It's the moment that blows everyone's head off. Really, being honest, isn't it?
Yeah.
You should have seen us all. We're all watching on a Google Meet, and all the different squares on the screen as the news trickles into everyone, and it's just like, because we had each other, because some of us live in very remote locations. But like the faces, like the facial expressions, and then it was just silent for a while, because the news just had to sink in to everyone, and then the messages flow in, like, did you see that? And oh my goodness.
Can I do one more heart? Can I go happy again, because I'll die otherwise?
I was about to say, I think we should kind of find a heartwarming one to bring us back up again.
My one, I know you've had them off the field, guys, with Steve's quotes there, and even Carl's reaction and stuff like that. But my in-game heartwarming, genuine, that's special. That is really, really special. Was Beauville.
Yeah.
Watch that. I feel like an ass saying this. But I was on the bus going back to the village with Michael van der Vleuten after he won his medal in Tokyo. So you instantly feel like, you're there with there was one Irish guy and 4 Dutch guys. And I didn't even realize for 5 minutes, given that's just how so quiet he was about the whole thing. But then they go and do it again and we've loved Beauville, and I think that's the other thing is, I use past tense, like loved. I think our days of talking about Beauville in the same. I remember sending that article to the FEI about the kind of, there was the explosion and King Edward battle was going on at the end of 2021 and into 2022, and I was like, Beauville is the underappreciated one here. This should be a 3-way discussion of the greats in the sport right now, not a head-to-head. It's not a 2-way. But it had his moment had kind of been, and obviously then the individual medal in Herning, but certainly since that, the question really was like, I mean, to be honest, it was more like, are we going to see Beauville in? Could he go the Monaco route? So to do what he did, and again, he wasn't perfect this week, but I'm pretty sure he was as good as any other horse. I think he was maybe, he had a rail yesterday. That's we'll get to the format in a minute, but I think he had 2 down for the week. One in the team competition, one in the individual competition, which again is the same actually as your winner checker. When I get to the format, that's what I have a little issue with, is the horses that had a rail yesterday winning. I think we need to discuss that. But no way with regards to Poville. I don't care. I'm like, whatever way that boy gets his medal, he's only the third horse in history to win 2 Olympic individual medals, and the first horse in history to win 2 individual Olympic medals and a individual World Championship medal. That's outstanding. And again, it's one of those things that in all probability we'll never see again in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm so delighted for them, especially after so narrowly missing out on that team medal for the Dutch.
Yeah.
And this just makes it up. I think the whole team, is a part of that individual medal as well. They were fully behind him. He had so much support, and they just 100% deserved it. And it was a beautiful moment, and I'm delighted for them. I really, really am.
And it was a right journey, because I was rooting for him in the round.
Yeah.
Then, as more people had rails, I was like, oh, this is really good for Beauville. As I mean, King Edward one being the obvious one going out, and then there were others going out. It's like, oh, this, and then by the time we got to Epiard, going into the final 5, I still thought we'd have 5 in the jump off.
Yeah,
we already had 3, and I was sure 2 of the last 4 would jump clear. I was hoping they'd both be Irish, but you had Julian Epiard as well. But then when the Irish didn't, I was actually willing. Sorry, Julian. I was like, oh, please have a rail, because that guarantees Beauville a medal. I was just so genuinely rooting for him once the Irish were out. And I was panicking, being like, oh, he's got to get his medal now. I want to. But I always thought even if it was a 4 or 5 person jump off, I was still confident enough that he'd get a medal. I thought he'd probably play for it. Of all of the horses, I think he'd probably play for it. So yeah.
Another heartwarming moment, of course. I don't want to finish this pod at all without talking about Dynamics. And I'm going to segue into the format with her as well, because she was actually the only horse that jumped both the individual qualifier and the individual final clear. So if it were a case of carrying points over, the penalties over from the qualifiers, she would have won her medal, her individual medal. That's not the case. That's not the format. That's not what we're doing here. But it does beg the question, should it? Would that be a better representation of a championship, rather than right now what we're doing is more of a Grand Prix, best of the day? Now, I still think that Christian Kukuk and Checker deserve their medal. And they would have still medaled would they have still medaled? Never mind, forget about that. But it would still,
okay. So for me, without doubt, the points should carry. And here's why: the cost of that is it's not as exciting. We talked about, oh, it's all reset to 0. Before we were all like, oh, this is really, makes it more open. Whereas, but there were still 19 clears, weren't there? Yesterday, there were 19 clears. 20 clears. So that's still 20. I mean, that's still open. Come on. The reason to do it, in my opinion, is actually for the horses. I'm going to sound soft, and I've got to be really careful with how I say this as well. It's a long week. This is not getting anywhere near the W letter. This is not a welfare thing at all. So I'm not going down that road at all. Sport is, there's way tougher human sports out there. Not about that at all. It's just how tough you had to go. Today was hugely tough. To see Legacy walking out of the ring like that. Henrik, Leonie, horses giving everything at the end of a long week, giving everything, and not being able to get the clear round. You have to be on the edge of the comfort zone. I do not want to see easy tracks and loads of people in a jump off. But from your 20 clears yesterday, if you'd had 10 clears today, or sorry, there'd be 30 coming in. So some of the clears that you would have had today would have had 4 yesterday. So it'd be like Aachen. Aachen runs, You'll have clears from people who had a rail in round one and they can't win it. So that's your cost. You're watching, for example, Checker, for example, Beauville. They jump clears today, and you're like, well, it's going to boost their placing. They're going to be in the top 10 Olympic Games, but they're not going to win a medal. But it would have allowed you to just take a little bit of a temperature out of the track today, and I think that's right.
I liked it. I liked it as an outsider. I like the jump in jeopardy, the ease of understanding. 20 them clear yesterday. Would have been a lot more today, guys. Like, feels difficult with 3, but like, don't forget it.
3 out of 30 of the best horses in the world, dude.
Yeah,
it's a
I know.
10% clear rate with,
but
you ain't gonna see quality like this again.
I know, but Max Kuhner, how many have the last? How many have the last?
Yeah, it's an 84-second course. Like, that's part. It doesn't make it any less, because the effort, you have to think the effort they have to put in to clear it. Just because they're clearing those fences doesn't mean that it's taking a huge amount. It's taking a huge amount. Like, it's getting to that point of it's all out, and there's a problem with like there's because we yesterday was a very jumpable course, and you had good horses, United Touch, Ilix, Checker, Beauville, people had rails. And so if you use cumulative risk, like, it's still gameful, it's still tense, it's still exciting. It just means the only cost is that there would have been 10 people jumping today who you knew beforehand, okay, they probably can't win. But I think it would be right. Like, I'd much to prefer to, which would have meant that the likes of King Edward would have gone in today with more like an 11% win chance. Still not guaranteed, still wide open, but it's not this. It's not, and I think it's more rewarding the most consistent horse, and I just don't like we're gonna see riders jumping less. If this is how tough it's going to be, it's going to take a lot to, these horses have to get over this now. Like any athlete, all the athletes going home, human horses have to, human athletes have to get over the Olympic Games, because it's tough. And I'm not saying make it easy, but it's it's shades of gray, and I think today was too tough, actually. And I think there's a lot, and I think that's the difficult thing in horse sports, is to manage that line of where the comfort zone is.
Is there any more moments that we want to discuss? Is there anything else standing out? I think
Yeah.
Okay.
Laura Crowd having the last down.
Oh yeah. Because we've seen it before. It was a bit of a deja vu moment.
Yeah, it was Aachen. The reason that hurts me is because it's so close. I think probably the same with Kuhner and Electric Blue Pea. And like, once they're now that being said, I don't know. I kind of feel like I don't really want to spend too long on that format conversation, because I don't want to get into well, they also had a rail yesterday, so did Beauville, and then suddenly you're into this. Like, I have to treat today as its own competition to talk about today, and the actual competition that we do have. I felt all of that Ballatino rail at the end. It all felt the same with Electric Blue Pea. I think 2 of them both felt like
it was right there, and they would have won. I mean, when they look at how the competition panned out, they could have won that jump off, no problem.
The jump off was very
Laura,
easy. I think it was
or Electric Blue Pea.
Both are fast enough. Laura's possibly more, but they're both. I would put them, if I saw either of those 2 names in that jump off. I mean, I know Kukuk is fast and Checker's quick as well, but they're not Caracals, they're not
I'll tell you about someone who I would have loved to have seen in that jump off. I would have loved a jump off with 4, because it reminds me of the old World Championships format where we had the final 4 that jumped off for the medals. I would have loved to have seen Juliette Ibea in that jump off. Those 4. Now he did finish 4th, so that we could have had the same result whether he was in the jump off or not.
No,
But it's
because
unlikely
because if he has one down, he's silver.
But everyone would have ridden that jump off completely differently, I think,
Yeah.
if he was last to go.
Yeah.
Would he have been last to go? We don't. Yeah, he would have been last to
He
go. I
would have
think his
been,
time was faster than any of the other 3. So I think then we would have seen a completely different competition in the jump off with just one added athlete, one added combination. That was a shame also for the home crowd not to have them in there. But to switch the 3rd and 4th positions from the team and now have a Dutch on the podium and then a French finishing 4th, I think that's also fair. So, but that's one I would have loved to have seen. I would have loved to have seen him have that shot at it on the big stage.
Which did you enjoy more, individual or team?
Individual, I think. Yeah, I think I enjoyed the individual more because, and I think I enjoyed the actual final more than the jump off, because like
The jump off is a
Christian
bit of
Kukuk
anticlimax.
himself said, it's kind of, there's not that much pressure. You know, we knew our medalists, but I thought the round itself was really, really interesting, and there was mistakes everywhere. It was really tough. It was a really tough course, but you do see some of the riders' humanities come through, like struggling with pressure, or making silly mistakes that you'd never see them make, or you do see them make that are weaknesses for them. That's when this all comes out. I think very often we see a lot of riders ride week in, week out, and it seems like they never make mistakes, or they never have any hardship, and then you see them here, and there are things that are difficult and that they struggle with, and I think that's very interesting to see as well, and see who has their horse in good enough shape to get through these days of jumping. And I really, really enjoyed the individual.
I'm trying to think. I put on my, because I'm ready to talk about them now. I've got to go there again. You've been positive enough, but I've got to talk about my 2 greys that I had on the podium. I had Leonie J winning it for Martin Fuchs, and I had Shane Sweetnam and James Can Cruz on my podium as well. I just can't remember who I had second. Oh, King Edward. I'm sure I had him. Did I? Maybe I didn't. Anyway, it was a disaster. I don't know what I'm talking about. But my God, I'm annoyed about when I saw the loose stirrup. I'm over the oh my God. I'm over the oh my God. The man's a genius because he can ride around a course that difficult with one stirrup and nearly put it off, because he did it in Spruce Meadows and he's done it somewhere else since. And I was just like, no, stop losing your stirrup and get your foot back in. And I don't want to see it.
Drop him a text there, Sam. Drop him a text there. Slide in the DMs and say,
definitely love that
Martin, stop losing your stirrup.
He'll be raging. He was as well. I think we're all. I think
also the last. I said to you both before we started, for a rider that I don't know at all, that's not from my country. I don't know. I've no obvious reason or connection to Leonie J. I loved it. I loved them. I felt something in a way that I've watched an awful lot of show jumping rounds, and I didn't feel as much like I wanted it. Like Charlotte, when you talk about dynamics, like obviously these 2 went back to back today, but like when they came in, I was like, this is it for me now. This is my horse. This is the horse I want to win. Rare do you get that. Like that's hard to get in jumping. I've certainly found in all equestrian sports. It doesn't feel like, I mean, obviously championships and team competitions are a little bit different, but like in football, in American football, or in soccer in England, in Ireland we've hurling and Gaelic, and there's an easy
tribalism with the team sports.
Yeah, there's an easy add. There's an easy connection. There's an easy way into them through tribalism. So equestrian sports, where we love the sport and we love all the riders to some degree or to a lot of a degree, harder to get that way in. whatever it is about that, it's
I know
got
what
me
it
now.
is for me. It's the consistency, like, so, and there's a lot of ability and consistency, but the risks they take, they
Yeah,
put
the
their heart,
bravery. We did talk about that a
bravery.
little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Brave,
arc and
brave and beautiful was your expression. And that's what I mean, by the way. I'm not, when I said no, don't lose this, I meant, I was like, you're like a little, it's like this kind of exciting, it's like this kind of like, oh God, edgy excitement, I would call it, when you see it the first time and even the second time. And when it happened the third time, I was like, when I meant no, I was just like, oh, please get the steer back. And he tried more
he did
than he
try.
did,
Yeah,
much
came
more
back.
than.
So it went probably somewhere around fence 5, I think.
Yeah, come out the double.
And
it was a
I don't
long time
know.
ago on a course that long, and he did pull it, like, if that
Oh my God, through the water, like through the combinations with one stirrup, like it's absolutely unbelievable what they did, in my opinion, to get like to ride, like it's the Olympic final. Like, think of the rails that came down
to
to them.
ride that line with the triple bar, the line that started
Oh,
with the triple bar, and
With
where
one
loads
stirrup.
with to do that one, that was outrageous, to be honest. It was. So hats off and all the rest, but I was gutted. Now that was only that happened after. I'm just going back into Star Chaser game. Leaving
New
it there.
game for anyone.
Yeah, I'm delighted with it, lads. I'm chuffed with it. I think it was just that I've actually built something that works, or been able to do something kind of. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities. So, we did have Dynamics clear after King Edward, to be fair. So King Edward was out, and then Steve jumps clear. Then Leone happens. I said to you, like, but it's still, Steve jumping clear was still like emotion. Like, Dynamics was so
that
good in the
what
middle of
what
that.
what Leone was for D was Dynamics for me, because I think I experienced the Leone round a lot differently than he did. And I think that's the beauty of it, that you can watch essentially you can watch the exact same class but experience it all differently because of what story you get behind, or it's getting behind the stories and getting behind form, or it is feeling. At the end of the day, we are a stats company, and we still pick completely different horses to kind of support and get behind, and I think that is the beauty of the sport.
Harry and Uricas ended up being a bit of a break for me, because like they had an early enough rail, and I was just like, and they wrote, but they
Finally we can breathe.
yeah, but credit to them, like, don't let that, he was 2 seconds over the time as well. Probably eased off a little bit once he'd had the 4 faults, and he couldn't win. They were already 3 in the jump off at that point. So
You know what? It was a bit of a run, wasn't it? When you think from like Kim Amen is 22. It's quite well displayed here on Star Chaser for anyone who's like, it actually is a very good display, Sam. I'll give you that.
cheers, bud.
But you think like Kim Amen is 12, and then Emanuela Kamali is 12. Like, so they've
12 faults. Sorry.
12 faults, sorry. But like, you've got, like, I'm just looking at that run to the end, and you have those two, then you've King Edward. So like, you're all over the place after that. Then you have as you say, Sam, then you have the Dynamics clear, Leone. As you say, you're arriving on Harry Smolder's early enough rail. Then you have the two Irish boys for us, which was also like.
That's why I'm drained. If I'm being honest, like, reliving it this way in number order, I think that hit me. I said it even in the team preview, in the team review, for a country that have been performing as well. They've performed, like, winning the League of Nations out in Ocala, winning Aachen, having just got the invite back. They don't. I know those guys. I know Marcus Swale, and how many times he stood on that kiss and cry, watching those lads. You talk to Keane, you talk to Shane, you talk to those guys at the shows, and everyone knew it was their moment. They knew it like none more than themselves. Their own belief in what they could do. To be empty-handed after the team was crushing, but then for today to finish the way it finished with Legacy's round and Shane's round, I mean, Legacy retired after it got as far as that triple bar, and then it was too much.
That line it was a similar mistake that Carl Cook, I think, and Caracol made, but they got their concentration back, and Daniel and Legacy didn't get it back after that, and then decided to retire. And I think it was the correct choice. But it's a shame they were they were so close. It's because it's such a long course as well. Like any other course would have been finished by then. I think what was that, number 11 or number 12 even. So you know,
Yeah, but there was a lot done. There was a lot done for the entire week.
Yeah.
There was a lot done for the entire year. We talked about those horses, how good those horses have been all year. Like we're in August now. Planning process, execution to a point, but that point just didn't stretch. And I just think that is that's a huge blow to everyone. And you just like Ireland have had, we had that with the Rugby World Cup. It's horrible. It's not nice losing when you're good. And it was there.
Hey, you know what though? Similar to. I mean, obviously Daniel and Shane are mainly based in the US, but similar to that Swedish crowd that we talked about with Henrik, you would expect Keane O'Connor back in Dublin next week, and
Shane as well.
He'll
Daniel
get a huge.
well, like they're all going. I
Are
think.
they all going? I do. They'll get an unbelievable reception and they'll get an unbelievable welcome home. I thought Keane O'Connor's interview after the qualifier yesterday was really good. He was asked, you must be really disappointed with this, and he totally changed that narrative around. No, he's jumped unbelievably for me all year. Any horse can have a rail. It's part of the sport. Good luck to everyone in there. Like he spoke really well. I think he'll get I think they'll all get a huge welcome home, but it's
a huge opportunity. The only thing it's like sport is fickle, and actually because like the problem for where jumping is at, without a lot of actually information and real understand, like the people who just see 7th for the team and see today, we had 2 riders in there retired and 12 faults. That's actually how some people interpret the performance, and they won't see as much other stuff. They'll have heard the build up and the talk. Like most of them won't have watched Akin. Like most people who are going to Dublin, they're not all Charlotte Smets. They're studying, living on Clip My Horse for 23.5 hours a day.
It's also just the breakout opportunities. Like I was walking down the street here with 2 kids just before I came on here, and like our next door neighbor was like, "Oh, they didn't win," but they watched it, and they're like, "Asher, once one came, they all came." That's fine. It's amazing that they are watching it. But when I talk about the missed opportunity, like it is just that chance that you see every so often in sports like gymnastics, in sports like equestrian sports, where actually people watch them and they try to work out like, Jesus, who is Rebecca Andrade and can she beat Simone Biles? And then she does beat Simone Biles. And you get these moments where this Brazilian gymnast is being talked about in our house every day by my daughter and my wife. Every day. But like we didn't know anything about her Akin or her Ocala or any of that stuff. But we know about her now. And that's the bit where you're like, oh, we missed.
It could have been so good, yeah.
There's a few of those moments, like, and it's a hard thing to say, but like, kind of feel the same with Laura Kraut. I'm just like, it was there. I mean, you can equally maybe say the same about Carl Cook. It was there for us, and all of a sudden it wasn't. Sport, but great sport. Tough sport.
I think overall, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think overall it's been a really good Olympics. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed consuming it all. I think we saw incredible sport, and I think we saw fair sport as well, like the best one. There was nothing that I thought that represented our sport badly or anything like that. It really was what our sport is, and I really enjoyed watching it all.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at now the number that we going into today. We had second equal on ratings. The number 2 horse in the world it was shared. Dubai de Cedra and Dynamics de Belém were second equal on ratings in the world. Obviously, the number 1 was King Edward, and we had the dramatic exit, but they were second and fourth. Dynamics was second, Dubai was fourth. Their ratings are going to increase. It's an action. It was a showcase.
Yeah.
It was an absolute showcase. Leonie J, James Can Cruz, they see out
for a sport that doesn't do it all like this all that often. Because I mean, even think where do they all go next? Like when do we see them all again? Like we'll see them again probably Geneva. Would that be fair? Is that the next time this happens?
Yeah, it's the closest Geneva stat. Geneva is the and actually Setogenbosch has nearly become it's up there competing with Aachen now on ratings.
I just mean next in terms of the calendar flow.
Yeah, Geneva is by far the outside of a Olympics or Worlds. It is routinely now the highest quality field that you'll see every year. They all go there. It's great prize money. It's a phenomenal show. But what is rare is wonderful, and I actually think it is the different channels, the different the different circuits, the global champions, the World Cups, the Nations Cups, the Major League in the US, where a lot of the Irish actually will compete and do their work. We bring it all together. That's what Echo Ratings does, is we make sense of all those. We know that all of those 5-star Grand Prix are not equal quality. We know that all of those tracks are not equal difficulty. We quantify those things, we measure those things, and we bring you the form lines, we bring you the elos, we give you, we bring the narratives together so that when you get something like this, we can form an opinion. We'll only ever write the first half of the story, as I've been saying in my bedtime stories to the eventers, and I'll say it again now, like that is our job, is to write the first half of the narrative, introduce people to the characters. I was talking to Dee about this, describing it like a film or a thriller in the cinema. You walk into the last 10 minutes of a brilliant movie and you see a spectacular finish and you'd be like, looks all right, but I mean, I don't know who the characters were. I mean, I don't really know what it meant, but sure, looked all right. Yeah. Now, if you that's the person who walks in at the end, which is what a lot of people do in show jumping. They were looking at Jay going, geez, yeah, it was pretty exciting. I mean, who was third again? Who was second again? They don't really know the characters. They don't really know the angles. If, on the other hand, you write the first 80% of the narrative, you talk about the characters, you talk about the angles, you talk about the backstories, their roots to this point in time, and they're all different. They've all some have come from global, some have come from Nations Cups. They've all come from their different roots. And then you said to someone, sorry lads, we actually have to stop now. We can't see you can't see the ending. You can't see the last 10 minutes out the cinema. You'd be on your phone. You'd be like, where can I see this? Like, I have to see the ending. And that's what sport needs. We are entertainment. That's why we work with shows. That's why we work with the Aachens, the Gothenburgs, the Dublins. I think we're going to be in Belgium this year for StefX, working with more and more shows. I love it. I've become absolutely hooked on this sport, I have to say. And I can't wait for Dublin. Yeah. Thanks, Charlotte. Thanks for reeling us in. We thought you were a maniac in the beginning.
Welcome to the dark side. But no, it's been incredible. I'm so looking forward to what's to come. I think we saw incredible sport, but there's so much more to come this year as well. We're already prepping for Dublin next week. Then we have Brussels, and the World Cup start again. And before we know it, we'll have another European Championship and World Championships in Aachen in 2026. There's so many good things to come, and I truly cannot wait. I want to thank all our listeners and people who have engaged with our social media, who have followed the updates in the WhatsApp channel. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. It truly was a roller coaster, but I've enjoyed it so much. And we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.